Welcome back to Boo Much Popcorn, the movie review podcast where Jimmy and me, Dracula, watch a movie and then we sit down, we talk about the things we liked and the things that we didn't like and the things that ultimately make us decide, would we recommend this movie to someone or would we not? And this week, Jimmy and me, Dracula. Hey, Dracula, get out of here. Dracula, you're scaring Jimmy. Stop it. Stop it, Dracula. Okay.
Aaron, save me.
Oh,
save me from
Dracula.
Dracula.
He's a bat. He's a bat. Okay. Okay, I got him out of here. All right.
Oh, my God.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Jimmy did not watch a movie with Dracula. That was last week, actually, when they watched Renfield. This week,
Nick Cage had his hands on your shoulders the whole time.
But he didn't watch this week's movie with us. This week, we watched Hocus Pocus. That's right. The hit 1993 classic with
The hit.
The hit. That's right. We're watching a hot off the presses 1993 classic this week.
Classic.
Yeah. And this movie, it's got Bette Midler in it.
It's got a bunch of people in it.
But
Kathy Najimy,
yeah.
Sarah Jessica Parker,
Yeah.
Orny. What was the guy's name?
Omri Katz.
Omri?
Omri. Omri. Katz.
I wonder why that guy's career never took off, huh?
Well, I think it was because they were like, oh, yeah, the cats. There was cats in the movie. And then he was like, no, my last name is Katz. I also played...
I was just the virgin.
Yeah. I also played one of the worst characters. That's not to say my acting was bad. It's just that the character I play is a total doob.
Oh, what a movie this one, huh? Hocus Pocus, 1993. Happy Halloween. Look at us. It just so happens that our episode also comes out on Tuesday.
Did we plan that? You'll never know.
You'll never know. Did we specifically start our podcast so that we could have an episode on a Tuesday that haven't? Never mind. Yeah. Either way, we watched Hocus Pocus. We're here to talk about it with everyone today. And yeah, what do we got going on here, Aaron? We got Max the Virgin summoning the witches from the past, and a whole bunch of fun stuff going on in this movie, huh?
Well, not only is he a virgin, but we got to remember that he's just like a totally radical dude from California who moves to Salem, Massachusetts, where they like stupid things like Halloween. Ugh. He's totally right for not believing in something as stupid as Halloween.
Do you think it is sort of an LA thing that people just don't trick or treat because houses are too far away from each other or something? It's just like impractical to go trick or treating? No, impossible.
Yes. What kind of East Coast madness is this?
Yeah, it's... Also, to grow up in California and have no knowledge of Salem witch trials and stuff is just mind-blowing as well. To just be like, yes, who could say anything on the East Coast? It's all mystical, magical.
Dude, and just to even like take it a step further, to be a kid, you know, somewhere, I think he's like high school, early high school.
Yeah.
But to be a kid in early high school and have a whole day where the teacher's like, hey, we're telling ghost stories and stories of witches, and there's probably not going to be any homework on that. And to be like, yeah, I'm a big old dupe who hates just really anything fun. It's like, bro, what are you doing? I would have killed... That's the equivalent of movie day where the teacher wheels in, you know, the TV on the cart and you spend the whole day watching Bill Nye.
Yeah. If your teacher is wearing a witch hat and does a whole like party trick at a student, then you're like, this is a good day. And if I'm expected to take notes, fuck off.
Yeah.
Because no one's taking notes.
That person is making minimum wage. Let's face it, she's a teacher, and she's trying her best. And then you get good old Max Dennison, the virgin in here, who's just like, bleh, Halloween.
This is the first time on watching this that I was so struck by how unlikable his character is in the beginning, because I remember him sort of gaining a heroic nature to him in the later part of the movie, and sort of you're like, okay, well, I'm on your side because you're protecting your sister, all this kind of stuff. But in the beginning, you're not introduced to the sister. She's somewhere else, the middle school, or just took the day off or something to prep for candy. Either way, it's like you're introduced to him, and his first couple of lines are just like poo-pooing the idea of fun Halloween myths and magic and stuff like that, and also getting fucking cucked and owned by the main girl protagonist in this movie as well, and coming out of that conversation thinking that you've won the exchange.
Yeah.
Thinking that Max is the superior, like, my thoughts on this are cooler than this girl who I actually like and will give my number to for some reason.
Dude, it's like pinnacle, like R/neckbeard, where he's like, and then everyone stood up and clapped. Cause yeah, he has this conversation where the girl totally owns him as he's trying to just shit all over Halloween. He gives her his cell phone, or not cell phone, it's 30 years ago.
Gives her home phone number.
Yeah, the home phone number. And then she's like, oh yeah, thanks. And then he follows her after school and he's like, hey, sorry for embarrassing you. And it's like, bro.
But it didn't hit me until this watch that I was like, he thinks he's dope as fuck. He needs to be taken down a few pegs. And then thankfully the movie does that throughout the movie.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Just continually just being like, you're getting bullied by these two losers. These losers are bullying you, which makes you like loser of losers. And yeah, there's just so many things throughout the movie that Max sort of just takes the L on, and you're like, good, you deserve to lose because you're a fucking loser.
Dude, Jay and Ice, who are arguably two of my favorite characters out of the entire movie, I love the idea of like, up until that point, they have just been the bottom of the cesspool at this school.
Yes.
And like they try and bully people, but do it like so unsuccessfully because everybody in some way is cooler than them. And then they like just like luck out by having Max show up, and they're like, oh, finally someone. And they like take a swing at like bullying him, and then like it works, and they're like, oh, this is how it feels. Like,
yeah, the dap after that bullying sesh, they get like a perfect, just like,
yeah.
And they think their lives are changed after that moment, but yeah, it's a disaster.
So yeah, and then we have Max going, and he's taking his sister trick-or-treating. They end up back at the girl's house, the girl who cucked him, and she agrees to take them to the old Sanderson sister house.
Boogie, boogie, boogie.
Yeah, and we were introduced to the Sanderson sisters at the very beginning of the movie, where they're revealed to be spooky witches. And then we're taken back to the same Sanderson sister house 300 years later. It's now covered in cobwebs and abandoned because it's some kind of museum where they decided to close it down and then not remove any of the merchandise, or like, it's wild.
It was a sunk cost. They couldn't recover any of the materials. Also, the full lighter.
Yeah.
On a rack of seemingly other full lighters. Like, that just sounds like a fire hazard to begin with.
Like, the almost funnier joke would have been like, when the girl's like, oh, they shut down the museum, is like, if she had been like, they shut down the museum yesterday. And then like they go there and it's just like, it looks like it's been shut for 30 years.
Yes, the amount of cobwebs that have amassed on every surface. Are you sure it wasn't like 10 years ago? And it's like, no,
No.
we haven't been here in one day, and it's just like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, what? So was it actually sort of a set dressing or actual cobwebs? Because they were treating them like they were real physical cobwebs made of dust and spiders and that kind of stuff. I don't really know. It is a disturbing factual sort of inaccuracy. Like just what's going on with this museum, huh?
Yeah.
How you make any money?
Well, it's right up there with like the fact that so later the Sanderson sisters come back, yada yada yada. They have to make a potion to kill some children. Sorry, suck some children. And there's a big difference. And then
We never see them kill a child. Just suck them.
yeah. But like to do that, they have to like put their ingredients in there, and all of their ingredients are like kept in the museum. I can't imagine. It's been 300 years. I can't imagine that those ingredients are still fresh.
Well, and Sarah Jessica Parker, when she immediately comes back, she like reaches for the rat tail.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're saying that this 300-year-old house that has to have been remodeled or renovated at some point because it has not fully crumbled to the ground.
Yeah.
No one looked in like the above doorway rafter.
Dude, the dude who is putting in the fire sprinklers, like he was up there in that part of the rafters and he like saw the rat tail and he's like,
Just kind of looks down.
not my fucking problem.
Well, it's like, looks really disgusting up there. I'll just not mention it or do anything about it because it's just nasty.
Yeah.
Ew. Witches.
Also, what's going on at the Salem Chamber of Commerce where they decide to shut down this museum where they had like factual witches living in, so much so that they hung them back in the past 300 years ago. And then like this museum should just be like popping off. You know, tourists are coming there. And then somehow the Chamber of Commerce is like, yeah, it's not really pulling a profit. We got all these cool, things in there. But like, it's not really working for us. So let's
Not even that it should just be popping off. It should be a historical site and therefore have its own sort of protections on it that make it not be closed and more run down.
yeah.
Like, honestly, was it closed for the night? She described it as like my mom worked at the museum that is like not open anymore. Was it not open for Halloween?
Okay, maybe the mom was the like maid who cleaned shit up. And so they like fired her. The place is still in operation. It was just closed for the night, but they fired the mom like 2 years ago. And since then, everybody's like, yeah, that's not my job to clean. Like, that was her job.
So people are daily going into the Sanderson house, getting these cobweb-ridden fire, lighters, but still everyone's just like, should anyone dust in here? It's like, no, it adds to the ambiance of it being an old, gross house.
Well, the tourists think that it's all set dressing, and then the people that work there, they're just the epitome of like, that's not my fucking job.
Not my fucking job. They fucking fired the janitor. What do you want?
And you know what? I'm now backing this because like we got the rat tail where the guy's up there installing the sprinklers. That wasn't his job to move that.
No.
And then you have the spooky tunnel that they end up going into. They go into a graveyard. They jump into the sewer.
Yeah.
And there's just open skeletons, like full skulls and rib cages, stuff hanging out of the ceiling of like straight up bodies. And it's like, was somebody in this tunnel and just like, yeah, that's not my job.
Yeah, so there's the sanitary worker in the sewer, like going down a straightaway passage. They look to the right. They see this like coffin sunken into the ceiling, and they're like, my sanitary duties are north to south. East to west is somebody else's problem. Yeah, it feels like Salem's whole sort of it just needs like a revamping of how people go about business because it's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a mess there.
Because we also have the guy who's dressed up as the cop where the kids come up to him and they're like, oh my goodness, there's witches after us. And he, puts on a little show for them. And then later his girlfriend comes out of the alcohol place and she's like, hey, what was that? And he's like, they thought I was a cop. But like, he's also the epitome of like, I know I'm not dressed this way and that's not my fucking job. Like,
well, it's like, he had cop aura.
Oh yeah.
Straight up. Like perfect casting for like guy who looks like a cop and then treats kids like asshole and then is not a cop the whole time. And then also literally no actual police presence throughout the movie. And you're just like, does Salem just not have a government? It's just like Wild West Halloween town over here.
Yeah. We see the one fire truck show up when the house has the sprinkler go
Volunteer.
off. And like they could have been from the next county over. Like they're just on overtime. They had to come over.
It's technically like 2 hours later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like, and it's like there's no point in analyzing it because it 100% feels like a sort of Disney kids movie. Please don't think about this too hard. We're just trying to make the goofs and the gaffs. And if you think too hard about this, we've created a society that cannot sustain itself.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, fine. I'll get to the goofs and gaffs, and I'll let Bette Midler and, you know, the rest of the Sanderson sisters really run amok throughout the city. And you get this whip smart sort of like beat for beat, very easy to follow like story where you're just like, Virgin shouldn't do this, Virgin does that. You've already set up that the Sanderson sisters like want to do this thing to maintain their immortality or, you know, youngness. So they're going to want to do that. And now they're back. So they're going to want to do that. And Aaron, when we were watching it, you mentioned like there was specifically multiple lines that are like, we should do this, or like, oh, if only we had some salt. And then they go down in the kitchen and they're like looking for salt. And you're like, the movie has this way of leading you perfectly as the audience with the narrative. And so wherever they're going next, you already are sort of, you're with them. You're like, okay, they're going to a hallowed place. They're going to the graveyard. They're going to the Sandersons. I don't really need to know what's going to happen there, but their agency and like the stuff that they're saying they're going to do then happens. And so you're sort of just like, not even surprised. You're just like, well, this is pleasant. I just sort of get to see them do the things that they're going to say they're doing. And there's bits and jokes and all that stuff going on throughout.
And it does a good job of like putting those lines in there and like not being like, you would think it's like hand holding, right? Or it's even showing rather than, or telling rather than showing, but it does a really good job of not being either of those things. It's just like, hey, we're setting up the next scene, and it just like keeps the flow of the movie going really well, so that like by the time you're near the end of the movie, you're like, wow, I can feel like it's been a whole night, and like it's just been a good, nice flow to the entire movie.
Yeah, you mentioned too when we were watching, it was like there were multiple instances that felt handholdy, but fully in terms of like giving a stop clock to what's supposed to be happening. You're like, it's midnight, it's 3 a.m., it's 5 a.m. And you're like, the stakes feel more tangible when you understand that there is a clock to sunrise. Where if no one ever said anything or looked at the clock or wore a watch or anything, you'd just be like, there's no stakes? Fine.
Yeah.
But it's like a kid's movie, so it's like, what they're actually doing feels like there's no stakes, but because there's a timer on it, suddenly you're like, oh no, anything could happen in this specific allotted time. And therefore there are stakes, even though it's a kid's movie, and you just are like, the worst thing that could happen is that a dead guy's head falls off. Woogie woogie boogie.
Yeah, it's interesting because like there's, you know, stakes for the Sanderson sisters, but there's also stakes for the kids, and it's all based off of that, like, the candle was lit and they've got one night to get their, you know, stuff together so that they suck a child. And then we don't want to say kill a child. That's bad. They sucked a child.
No, they unalive a child.
But they got to get it done before sunrise. Otherwise, you know, who knows what will happen. And so, you know, you would expect some kind of, you know, and it happens all the time in movies where they're like, yo, we got 7 minutes to get this done. But then it's like you spend 30 minutes watching a scene and you're like, okay, I can't tell how the, you know, flow of this is going. But this movie does a good job of being like, all right, this is up until 3 a.m. and then this is from 3 to 5 and then this is from 5 to 7 and like especially in that 5 to 7 they've got the cue of like, oh, the sun's coming up. And like throughout the night, like you can see it's like getting darker and then oh, like it's the middle of the night and there's no children around anymore. Like this is like the middle of the night. And it also did a good job of in the segments that felt longer, that's when more time passed, which is what you would expect, but isn't always the case in movies. Sometimes the scene that's longer was like 5 minutes, and then the scene that's shorter is like, okay, now we just passed 2 hours. You're like, what? But this did.
Well, see, I think that's acceptable depending on like what you're trying to do in the scene, right? It's like if it's a really tense moment, you would want that 1 minute to take 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But this just did a good job of like keeping it flowing, but also like putting little bookmarks in there and being like, hey, it's this time now. So now you can expect like this much more is going to happen.
Yeah. It's funny. I was actually watching a show. I couldn't remember what it is, but they specifically mentioned it was like this took 10 minutes. But in the show, you know, it's like a 23-minute show. So it took 2 minutes. And I'm like, why reference a time if literally it does not mean anything? Because it's like 10 minutes isn't that long of a time period anyways, but for those 10 minutes to have taken 2 minutes, it means nothing in the context of what I'm talking about. So yeah, for this movie to have a sort of cohesive tracking of time that felt like a propellant towards narrative, you're like, okay, good. It starts to fall apart when there's kids walking outside at 3 a.m. and they're still in their costumes and haven't been asleep for 3 hours. But it sort of mends itself back together when you're like, oh, all of the parents have been put under this spell. And so you have just chaos. Children with no bedtimes. They've been eating candy since 6 o'clock at night. So they're just crazy children. They're hopped up on sugar, and either they're crashing so hard or they just keep eating more sugar, and it's just like continual high. And the parents have all culminated in this one spot that they cannot leave. They are imprisoned in this dance party. So all the kids are just like, where's my mom? I don't know. Let's fucking go crazy. Well, yeah, because it loops back to even Jay and Ice like TPing that one house. And it's like they didn't TP any other house. They just really TP'd that house. Fuck that house in particular.
Yeah. No, and you know, there probably are other adults out running around, but again, they're like, well, that's not my children. That's not my fucking job.
Not my problem. It's the you enter Salem. It says now entering Salem, and it says, hey, if it's not your job, don't do it. Population 1239. You know. I do back to Jay and Ice though. They're the losers. You know they're losers because the shaving of ice in the back of your head is like a very specific loser thing to have done. It's like, you know, Jay did it.
And he like has to tell him that his name is Ice. That's not a name he earned. That's a name he gave himself.
It was a name he just gave himself today because his name was Ernie as of 8 hours prior.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the night before, they did the thing with the ice in the back of his head, and it's like, you're Ice now. Or like someone pranked him and did that. I don't know. That would have just shaved his whole head probably if it was a prank. This is somebody. Jay did this.
Yeah.
What an enigma, these two, huh?
I love them though. Like
they're such losers.
Yeah. And the fact
it's good
that
they get put in cages.
I know. The fact that they end up getting kidnapped by the witches and then taken back, like, it's so it's funny to me. It's a very good bit that just like, and then especially to like have it persisting throughout the like second half of the movie.
Yeah.
Where they're in there and you see like the witches, like there's one time where like Sarah Jessica Parker's like character is like poking Jay in the like butt with a pitchfork, and it like, I don't know. It was funny to me. It's slapstick.
Yeah. I think it was Sarah Jessica Parker just like really fucking with Ernie and like spinning him around and like doing all this shit with him. And it's like, you fucking get him.
Yeah.
Fucking get him. It's so funny. This movie. The bits.
Oh, the bits.
The bits.
So there's a point where Max and his sister and Allison have the witches go to the high school. They trick them to go into the high school. They trick them to go into this firing kiln. And then they lock them in there. And to do that, they have this French tape playing, which is doing the audio and then the French dialogue. And so, then, the witches get fired. They come back down out of a mist, recombobulate themselves, kick the door down, and Bette Midler's character comes out doing I would like my book. And then she says it in French, and it just cracks me up.
Yeah, there's so many quippy one-liners, and Bette nails them. And there's no unfunny Bette line. Even just Bette talking normally, you're just like, oh, this is so good. But the specific one that killed me on this watch and killed me on every previous watch is they go into the house and they think they're with the devil, El Diablo. It's just a guy in a costume. Either way, he lets them in the house. He says, let me go get my little woman. And then Bette perfectly, just I love when there is just a perfect line delivery and she just goes he has a little woman. And you're just perfectly written line, perfectly, if it's improvised by Bette, I don't know, it's either way, the delivery, the capturing of that moment is when you just, ooh, mwah, a little chef's kiss. It's so perfect.
Yeah. I mean, you see it in movies, I won't say all the time, but a lot of times where they have a character come back from the past into the modern age, and that character's like, oh my goodness, what are all these things? And I'm experiencing everything for the first time. But they're either not freaked out enough or freaked out too much. But I think part of it's that, the Sanderson sisters were unalived in the 1700s. So it's yeah, they've seen some stuff. And then they're brought back. And I think all of their exposure to modern day stuff is so very good because it's not overdone and it's not underdone. It's they get the sprinkler put on them. Yeah, that's a proper amount of and it's very funny. And then they they're walking out and they see the asphalt and they don't know what that is because why would they? And they push Sarah Jessica Parker's character into it and she thinks she's gonna die and then she finds out it's solid, and it's also very funny.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched a movie. I won't name the name of it recently, where it specifically was this sort of time travel, out of time. Oh, everything's so different in this era. And they only focused on one thing that was jarring to this character. And it was funny the one time when they're like, this is so weird. And then the rest of the movie, they tried to make that same joke, but it didn't work after the first time. And so you're like, how did Hocus Pocus nail? I think it goes down to the vibe of the Sanderson sisters is so nailed with the three. They just it is the perfect balance of this is scary and I'm scared and I don't know what this is, to an inquisitive sort of smartness inherently to these characters. Is they're witches, they are hiding from society in the first place, so it's they had to sort of figure out how to live on their own, and they're resourceful and all this sort of stuff. And they go up to the bus driver and they don't really know what a bus or a vehicle like this is. And they're like, what is this? And he's like, it's a bus. And you're like, why did he say it that way? Either way, it's very funny. But yeah, and then they go into the dance hall and they are called out and they're like, oh no, we're the Sanderson sisters. But actually, we're going to take over this whole party and do our little sing and dance number and totally bewitch the crowd. And so you're they don't understand what microphones or electronics or anything are in this sort of future tech, building that they're in, but they understand how to manipulate the masses. So it goes with their character that they don't need to fully understand the type of world they're living in. They just have to be there's that one scene where Bette Midler, they've just left the Devilman's house after being kicked out by Medusa, and she's they reveal the kids are in costumes and we're freaking fools. We've been tricked. The Hallows Eve is a freaking party now. And then it totally changes how they react to like the rest of the stuff in the movie.
Yeah, I think the thing too I like about one of the things I like a lot about the dance hall scene is that her way of enchanting the crowd is to sing the song. And the song that she sings was written in the 70s. And it's like, all right, how would she know that? But the thing that the movie shows is that they go in there and then like the character who's already doing the singing is up on stage and he's singing the same song. And so she's like sitting there listening to it and learning it. And she's at least learning, enough that if she needed to replicate it, she could. And I love that because then it's like, all right, now it makes sense why she knows that. It's not like she's just like, oh, I'm magic and I can pull a song right out of my ass. It's like, no, she got enough and then like had the idea when they got called out to like, all right, boom, I know that I can like sing a spell and put a spell on you.
Yeah.
And it's catchy. It's so catchy. I really like that rendition.
The dance hall scene is fantastic, and it makes sense why if they would make a sequel, not saying they have or should or will but if they did, then it would make sense that they would try and lean into the sort of musical nature because it's a great scene and I would try and recapture that for sure. Would I be successful? I don't know.
Well, it seems like the type of thing where like if the sequel were to do that same thing multiple times in the same movie to a point where it almost felt like or would feel like you're getting a baseball bat smacked across your head, it feels like it wouldn't really hit the same tones. One, because you're like, all right, I've seen this before. It's not a callback. And two, like, again, now that character is just pulling songs out of her magical ass instead of cleverly listening to a song and learning it.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
But hypothetically, if there was a sequel, who could say?
Yeah.
But either way, unhypothetically, Aaron, what if we needed to make $1?
Well, hypothetically, we could sing a song and put a spell on people, but I think we should just try these ads.
Oh, I thought you were going to say we like busk with like a hat.
Give us $1, give us $1, give us $1 now.
So here's our virtual busking with a little ad break.
Hypothetically, those were some good ads, and our busking was actually a lot more successful than I thought it was going to be.
My hat. Ching, 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 ching. Wow. People carry change?
Oh, no, they filled it full of bells. That's just bells. Dang it.
Mine's full of candy. Oh, trick-or-treating. Just like in the movie.
So, that's something I like a lot about this movie, and I think it's something that everybody likes about this movie, is that it's not a like nostalgia piece, and I don't think they ever like intended it to be a nostalgia piece, but like in its way it is. It's a really good like early 1990s nostalgia piece where like you look at the kids trick-or-treating, you see kids having fun, and you're like, God, I used to have fun. Where did that go in my life?
I mean, to be fair, I think there is a targeted element to the nostalgia where specific costumes you're going to see, aka, we saw Sonic in there. That was
yeah, that was wild.
But it's like you are getting, whether you don't go into a movie, I would think, creating this type of movie being like, this is going to be the time capsule of 1993 that people will look to. But it does fully immerse you as the viewer in this sort of era with all the costuming, whether it be a Goofy Kids costume or what Max and Allison are wearing throughout the film. It's fully just like 90s sort of grungy kid gear. And it's nostalgic now, but even at the time, I think it was just like a really popular look of a film. It's like there's fun candy brands and costumes and basically all the generic branding that you would expect in a Disney film at the time. And Disney's always been good at just sort of pumping a movie full of stuff that makes you sort of look at it and go, ooh, yeah, look at that. Look. That's pretty much it. It's like always great set dressing and costume design and all that kind of stuff that goes into a Disney film. It's expected.
Yeah. Well, it's like, at the very beginning when Max is shitting all over Halloween, like they're in the classroom and the classroom just like is decked out with Halloween, like cute little things here and there. And it's just like, that's what it was like. And then you see the kids running around on Halloween, and like I'm guessing it was just the fact that they didn't want to pay a whole bunch of like royalties to other franchises and stuff, but like the costumes you're seeing are like handmade, and like that's something I remember from Halloween is like almost every year that I trick-or-treated, my mom like handmade my Halloween costume. And so like that's something that in its own way is nostalgic. And they do a good job of like setting up Salem. Like the leaves have fallen, but they're still orange on the ground. It's got like you can tell there's like a crispness in the air. Like, I don't know. It's good and it's fun and it's a good feel in a movie.
I think it's funny to have it as Salem, this East Coast witch hunting town, but at the same time, it has a West Coast feel to it. It almost feels directly like The Goonies, which is based in Oregon. And it's like, this feels like you've put everyone back in Astoria, Oregon, but actually just rebranded it as Salem, not Salem, Oregon, but, like Salem on the East Coast where the witch trials were. It's pretty funny just in general to have this town exist in this sort of, it feels like, again, it feels like another Disney universalizing something where you're like, West Coast, East Coast, it's okay. All kids from Central to Coastal America will enjoy the look and feel of this town.
Everybody except for Max, who's like, I don't fucking believe in Halloween. Oh, I would never be an idiot who believes in, kids running around getting free candy. I can't fucking believe such a thing.
I think it's funny too because he fully gets a trick-or-treater's bag and like joins his sister at, seemingly, he puts up a fuss, but then he's just like, yeah, I'll get some fucking free candy. What?
Yeah.
I don't even have to dress up.
Though, like, isn't that just like the peak of being a teenager is being like, yay, this one thing I've done like almost every year up until this point that I've enjoyed is now the one thing that I'm going to be like, it's my personality to hate this thing because I feel like that's going to make me cool. That's like, that's being a teenager.
That is true. Yeah. That is consistently a teen thing, is just for no particular reason, I'm going to basically pretend that I hate this now, even though it's something that I've done and enjoyed. To me, there's no reason to ever stop trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
It's great. It's very fun. There is a point where you're a little too tall and if you don't have a young, niece or nephew or child to go do it with, then you're sort of the weirdo who goes trick-or-treating. But if you're in high school and you like physically, literally are a child still, then like, fuck it, man. Put on a costume and have some free candy. It's fantastic. It's a great holiday. And to double back on like homemade costumes, not only does it feel like a fun thing that I totally agree with, it also is like a good way to get around the sort of copyright, because there's like masks and like, oh, that's kind of Jason. And so there's that nostalgia of like kind of, it's like my mom kind of knows what the Halloween movie franchise is,
Yeah, it was like, little old lady Johnson at the door when she asked you, like, what are you? It's not because she didn't know what the franchise was. It's because she was like, hey, I can tell your mom put a lot of detail into this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, like,
exactly.
I just can't exactly tell if this is what I think it is.
Exactly. It's fully that, where you're like, I'm a Power Ranger. And it's like, I don't know, you're kind of just wearing like a red hoodie and like a robot mask. So I don't really know, like, that's Power Ranger. Okay, good for you, honey. Here's your candy bar.
Yeah, good stuff. Also, were you having a flashback to that time in high school when we went trick-or-treating as Indiana Jones and his dad?
No, I've blanked this out of my memory. Did that happen for real?
Did. You activated that memory in me where I was like, oh my God, we did that.
We did that?
Yeah.
Did we get any candy or did we get laughed out of doorsteps?
No, we got candy. I remember that. That was good stuff.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's insane. I literally do not remember that. Is that even did we have costumes? Was this real?
They weren't good costumes. I think I was wearing a leather jacket, and I don't remember exactly what you did. We might have.
Do you think we were just hanging out? And we were like, should we go to 7-Eleven and buy candy? Or
I remember we were hanging out on Halloween, and then we were both kind of like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we like ironically would, and then we were like, wait, should we just, let's just.
That's awesome. I love that we did that. That's probably the last time I've trick-or-treated.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's not going to be the last time I watch this movie.
Absolutely not. This is a common October watch for me. I'm not saying I'm not going to give away.
Well, Jimmy, what do you think? Would you recommend this movie to people?
I think we will keep this episode a little short. It's just like a little. It's a regular episode, but we're also putting it out on Halloween. So
people got to get out there and put on a leather jacket and maybe like a checker jacket and go as Indiana Jones and his dad.
Exactly. If my watch is correct, then it's time for trick or treating, and that means it's probably like 4 o'clock.
3:55.
That's the thing with this movie. It's like the kids seemingly are trick or treating in the complete darkness of Salem.
Yeah.
They just really like Halloween. It's like, no way, we were done trick-or-treating at like 8 latest. If it was like 6:30, it's like, oh guys, I gotta get home.
Yeah. And especially if it was a school night, like you had to get that done.
Yeah. You had to get all that candy like lickety split, or you're shit out of luck on that one.
Oh man, I haven't had a lickety split in so long.
Oh man, they should have had those lickety splits in the movie. As far as the movie is concerned, and as far as how we rate the thing with the show that we do right here, I, of course, am giving this a definitive watch. As I've said, I spoiled my own fucking thing because I watched this movie. I mean, this is like, 4th or 5th time now for me. It's such a hoot and a half, and it's hilarious. I can't recommend the second one, and I heard that there's a third one being created now, and I really am upset about that. But here we are with the first one, and yeah, it's like all we had to do to make this conversation. We just like finished the movie, and we're like, oh man, I really just want to talk about this movie in its plot, and not even like. It is fully sufficient in, portraying all the information that you need. It's like, as a movie, it's completely competent filmmaking. There's even some fun, like extremely fun sort of stunt VFX and like all this sort of stuff that the witches do with flying around and magic and rotoscoping and Pixar animation. The cat animation is very disturbing, but is fine and very like early 90s. But yeah, it's like all in all, you get this like nostalgic, and it's like it doesn't even need to be nostalgic for you. You don't need to be born in the 90s to be like, I love all this imagery. It's just like you get a little time capsule of 1993, and you consistently get to call the main character Max a loser virgin, and everyone else in the movie does it too. And so it's super fun to just watch and laugh along with all the goofy shit that's happening. What do you think, Aaron? Is it a watch or a not watch for you?
It's a watch. If you're somebody who has not seen this movie, which again, I think this one's up there with Shrek, where just about everybody has at least seen this movie once, or it's been like on in the background of a Halloween party that you're at, and you're kind of like,
true,
what's going on over there? You're like,
I'm gonna go dress up as Indiana Jones' dad.
Yeah, you're like down some caramel corn, and you're kind of like half in a conversation, but you're watching Bette Midler, and you're like, But yeah, so if you're somebody who's never seen this movie, go watch this movie. You're gonna get a lot of cultural touchstones, and it's super fun. It's a good, like, this is the time of year to watch this movie. And especially if you're listening to this episode right now on Halloween, this is the night to watch this movie. Just don't light any candles, especially if you've never banged. But yeah, and then if you have seen this movie, let's be honest, you're watching it again. Every time it's even like August, Disney Plus is like, hey, you should watch Hocus Pocus right now. You're like, I'll wait.
Yeah. Aaron brought this movie up as like in September, like, hey, we're probably gonna watch Hocus Pocus for like Spooktober or October, and I was like, instantly like, hell yeah, we are.
It's just a fun movie, and it's even like that movie where like even if I'm not feeling it at the time, and like I've seen this movie a bunch, I know that when the parts are coming and stuff, I still enjoy it. And like even that little woman joke tonight, like busted my guts.
He has a little woman.
He has a little woman.
So good. Yeah, and it's so funny that you bring up like even not wanting to watch it or something. It's like you were like, oh, we'll watch Hocus Pocus tonight. And I was automatically like, oh man, I guess we got to watch Hocus Pocus. And then it starts and I'm automatically feeling better about our choice. I'm like, hell yeah, this movie fucking slaps.
Yeah.
Because it also, it literally, this watching, I was like, Max is such a loser. Like,
dude.
I knew he was a loser virgin every time I've watched it. It's like Max the Loser Virgin. That's the movie I'm watching. But this time it really hit home just like how terrible of like a loser he is. And again, I gotta harp on that first scene. He completely is utterly destroyed by Allison. And then goes up to her afterwards and is like, sorry, I fucking obliterated your ass. And she straight up, her line is like, no, you didn't do that. Yeah. And I'm just like, God, he's such a loser. I love, it's kind of shitty because like he's a fucking loser and he still gets the girl. And I'm like, Allison, he's a cool guy from LA. And it's weird because he is seemingly from his lifestyle and like drum set and skateboard and dart, like his set dressed room makes him out to be this cool fucking guy. And then the rest of his actions are just like, hey, he's kind of a fucking loser. And so maybe Allison just aim a little higher.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's like that one scene where they're like cuddling and it's just like, he has done nothing to, yes, you guys killed some people together. All right, maybe that's trauma bonding. I don't know.
They were murder horny.
But it's wild because they're like cuddling and it's like, yeah, but he still sucks.
He still sucks. It's so funny because I think the movie keeps like the male writers of this movie keep trying to make him cool. Where it's like, oh, he takes over the PA system in the high school to lure them into the fucking library tape and then do all this stuff. And he's got sunglasses on, so he's so cool. And I'm like, at no point in the movie do I think Max is a cool guy.
And it's super funny too, because like he's not even like 90s cool. Where like 90s cool was such a low bar where you could have had your middle parted, highlighted hair, your right earring, and like
it could have been Jay.
You could have been the closest thing to a dweeb and still be super cool. And Max still is so far from that. He's not even close. And it's that, and then that first scene, he's just like, I won that conversation. And then everybody applauded.
Insane that he like apologizes to her. He is so blinded by his own dweebishness.
Yeah. And like we were joking, like, does he just enjoy the humiliation? Like, is he into that? Or is he just like so oblivious? Or is he just so incel where he's like, I obliterated that woman.
Well, it's like it's too early in the 90s to like acknowledge an incel lifestyle existing. And it's just like, oh, he'll fuck. It's just he shouldn't tonight. He doesn't deserve it.
No.
Right now.
Yeah, he's done nothing.
And yeah, Allison is like literally sleeping in his arms by the end of the night. And it's like, you don't know this loser. You specifically like gave his phone number back to him because he's such a loser dweeb that you know.
Yeah. I think she was like, look, it's either him or the witches, and somehow he is the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, must have been. Yeah, there's a lot of sort of plot holes in terms of Max getting the girl, but for the sake of the film, you just sort of have to be like, he gets the girl. She really likes his younger sister, and to be fair, Danny is dope as fuck. She's a great character.
Dude, it says something where like you have Max, who is supposed to be the lead character, and he's not unlikable, but he is such a dweeb, and yet you're still like entranced to watch the movie. And I think it's because Allison and Danny are so good, and their chemistry is so good together.
Yeah,
that like they're the ones that really carry it, and also like the Sanderson sisters themselves, who are very strong as characters.
Yeah, it fully is a female-led film entirely. Like, all the male characters are loser idiots.
Yeah.
Like, straight up. The undead Billy is a loser idiot who literally loses his head all the time and walks around with spaghetti legs. The dad Kula is a fucking loser idiot. The bands are, the only cool guy in the movie was turned into an immortal cat.
Oh, wait. The bus driver.
And the bus driver
I love
is
that dude.
A weird, lecherous sort of fucking weirdo guy, but he is actually a good character.
Oh, and hold on. Jay and Ice. Super cool.
True. They're not dweebazoids at all.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Every woman in this movie is way like 10,000 times cooler than any male in this character.
Yeah, even the mom, who has like such a little part, like when she's
great.
Yeah, she's dancing around, and Danny's like, "What are you?" And she's like, "Madonna," right?
Scene stealer, straight up. Yeah, great costume, great Madonna costume too. Yeah, like hilarious. Just great women in this movie. It can't be said enough. It's like we focused on Max because he's such a loser, but like, oh man. Guess he's relatable to us, the fucking loser dweebazoids. He would have a podcast talking about his harrowing, Sanderson.
Yeah.
His one night with the Sandersons would be his podcast. It'd be terrifying. It'd be the worst podcast ever. But
when I got sucked by the Sandersons.
There you go.
He's given like alpha male advice where he's like, bros, if you're out there and you want to get sucked by a witch too, here's what you gotta do.
Buy my protein powder. Yeah. It's he's a loser. I love it. Cause his little sister is cooler than him, like in every instance. She's like, she tries to outwit them and say like, oh, I'm a young witch, and like, all this stuff throughout the movie. She's just trying to be a cool sister, and
yeah.
He redeems himself, but yeah, what a nightmare.
Yeah, but it's fun, and at the end of the day, that's what it's about. That's what the holiday's about, is having fun and good old wholesome fun, getting free candy, listening to fun podcasts like this one.
And just like this podcast, we were on the No Highway Option pod. We've mentioned this before. If you hadn't listened, we talked about the 1996 movie, That Thing You Do, and just recently our cut section of that has shown up on their Oops All bonus episodes thing. So if you go check that out, we're the last guests where they guess which movie we're asking them to watch, and I think they scheduled that movie episode for like December 31st or like it's this year. I think it's closing out the year for their show. So
we gave them a doozy. It's gonna be a good episode.
It's gonna be a really good episode. It'll be wild because we're like slowly or straight up with this suggestion we've given them, our format is gone because they'll be watching a sequel without possibly having watched the first one in their show. So either way, that's gonna do it for Too Much Popcorn. Boo much popcorn. Oh, I almost forgot that we're in a spooky mode, but that's actually going to do it for Boo Much Popcorn.
Jimmy, this is too much. Wait, Boo Much. I even forgot.
Oh my God, Dracula, sorry, you forgot the thing.
But you kicked me out, so how can you really blame me?
Well, do you think Aaron would know?
Of course, he's very professional when he is a podcaster. Well,
bring him back. Bring him back.
No, I snuck back in here. I knocked him out.
Okay, well, Boo Much Popcorn.
Yes.
And this will bring a close to Boo Much Popcorn. November, we're back to regularly scheduled programming. Dracula will turn into mist and evaporate into wherever he came from.
Can I be on like the holiday? Like Christmas is coming up. I think you might be watching Christmas movies. Maybe I'd be on some of those.
Is there like a Christmas Dracula movie?
Yeah. I'll find one
if
for you.
If you're relevant, I'll bring you back on. But if not, I gotta get Aaron on. His rapport with me.
Dracula, get out of here! Sorry.
I was explaining to him that our rapport, Aaron, you and I, is better than Dracula.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I'm a professional.
I didn't go trick or treating with Dracula. I went trick or treating with you. Literally a memory I have forgotten.
Did he ask to be on the Christmas episode?
He did, specifically.
Were you
talking to him about it, or?
No, it seems like he always wants to be on the show. He keeps emailing me. He sneaks into my house at night, and he's like, when can I be on an episode?
Because this is even news to me that we're like going to watch a Christmas movie.
Dracula is onto us.
So if you're going to do an episode with Dracula that's a Christmas movie, then what am I even doing here?
Yeah.
What am I even here for? Either way, Boo Much Popcorn will be Too Much Popcorn once again in November and the rest of the year until October again, and then we're spooky. But thank you so much. We ate a lot of popcorn. I don't feel well, but I normally don't feel well, so this is normal. If you liked what you listened to here, then give us a follow, give us a like, give us a whatever interaction on a platform. And we're still pushing for those Spotify, ratings and follows of the show and all that kind of stuff to get the podcast off the ground. Or
yeah, we keep dropping it, and then it's really heavy. So
yeah, I want to like make a raft out of magical flying broomsticks, and then put the podcast on top of the raft of magical flying broomsticks, and then it'll just sort of hover.
Yeah,
and I think that'll work. But until then, you've listened to Boo Much Popcorn. I'm Jimmy. That's Aaron. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. We'll see you next time for another movie review. Boo!
You didn't even say Dracula's name, but boo!
Dracula's back.